Oh.
All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Tezayin in Mesechus Eruvin. So we left off at the bottom. We did let's see, Tashma, 2 lines from the bottom of Tesvav Amud Beis. So the number one thing we're discussing right now is a machlokes, which we're going to basically also continue it for the next blot or so, or Amud. A case of paras ka'omed. Now remember, omed means to stand, right? The standing part of the wall. Paras means like a pirza, like the opening. All right. So the question is, right? You have to have more fence. It says if you have more fence, right, than opening, it's good. If you have more opening than fence, it's no good. What about if it's exactly 50-50? So that's a machlokes between Rav Papa and Rav Huna Brei Rav Yoshua. Rav Huna Brei Rav Yoshua says Aser, that 50-50 is no good. You have to have more fence than the space, but it can't be 50-50. And Rav Papa says it's mutter. 50-50 is still okay because you don't have more open space than not. So let's see the bottom. So Tashma, come listen. So we're still trying to prove one way or another, or ask the Bam Kasha one way or another. So we have a shayara, a caravan that's traveling, and they're not going to be in time for Shabbos to go in a place, so they want to encamp where they're traveling, and they basically surround themselves with the different animals and the saddles, right? Bavitin, the shlifin, right, with the different pillows, and the packages carrying bekanim, bekochos, with reeds and stalks. Let it go ahead and carry within these boundaries. As long as they don't have, let's say, this, if you're using animals, right, but the space between the animals, the size of an animal. Between the 2 saddles, the space of a saddle. The 2 pillows, the space between 2 pillows to be the same as a pillow. Why? Because if you leave every other one, that's 50-50, and 50-50, according to this, is no good. So I takasha. So hakinami. So to over here we said no. When it doesn't mean there's an airspace there, right? It means that there's enough airspace to put another, let's say, a saddle, right? To put another saddle in. So in order to basically fit a saddle in the space of a saddle, you need a little extra room to be able to sort of place it and to go in and out. So therefore, it's not exactly the same. It's actually more airspace, more opening than closing, and that's why it's no good there. So Tashma, come listen once again. So it turns out there are 3 categories of mechitzos, and we're going to be discussing this brisa basically almost until the Mishnah and Amud Beis. Now, there's going to be 3 different categories. So kol shu pachas mishloisha, anything that is less than 3 tfachim. Okay, so now the walls are 3 tfachim, right? We're talking about walls that were separated from 3 tfachim. So if the walls are thinner than 3 tfachim, you have to have between each of these thin walls, even if it's, let's say, 1 tefach, less than 3 tefachim. Why? Because we have the concept of lavud, and lavud closes up spaces between less than 3 tefachim. In order that basically that it's not more than 3, because it's more than 3, then basically a small animal can go ahead and fit through, and we do not allow that. So therefore, you have to have the air spaces no less than 3 tefachim. Now, Kol shu shloisha. Here comes category number 2. Kol shu shloisha, umishloisha ad arba. So something which is 3, or 3 up until 4. Tzarich shloyeh bein zeh lezeh kamalo. Right. You can't have the space, the same space in between. Right. Right. So in between the walls. Let's say the walls are each 3 tefachim. Right, so you can't have the space in between. It can't be the exact same. In order that you don't have 50-50, that the opening is the same as the standing. If you have more opening than closing, af keneged ha'omed aser. Over here now, this Mishnah is found in Kilayim. As we mentioned, that had also the laws of mechitzos over there in terms of walls separating different crops, such as vineyards, and separating grains. So if you have a wall, if it's not a wall, so we say over here that if there's more opening than closing, you wouldn't even be able to go ahead and find one of, let's say, the 3 tefachim boards and plant on each side of it, because that's not a wall at all. Now, that was category number 2. Category number 3, kolshu arba mi'arba, kolshu arba, anything with just 4, or me'arba ad eser amos, or from 4 until 10. You can't have in between 50-50. In order that you don't have the same the opening as much as the standing. If you do have 50-50, then since these walls are larger than the previous category, right? These walls are not somewhere between 3 and 4. Rather, these walls are between basically 4 to 10. Therefore, even though you can't carry with it, right? These are not considered to be walls. But if you're right next to one of those sections of the wall, then you would be able to go ahead and plant opposite it. But if it was by the opening, then you would not be able to go ahead and plant there. So those are the 3 categories by walls, right? So we're talking about, remember, you have the little fence, opening, fence, opening, fence, opening, right? And we're talking about how wide are these parts of the fence, and the other parts in order to figure out how large the gaps can be. Now, so he said, and if the standing part was more than the parts, then af keneged haparetz mutter, even by the opening parts you can do, because it's since you have mostly walls, right? So this is like a general rule. If you have mostly walls, because in other words the airspace is less, let's say the gaps are only 40%, so therefore you'd be able to plant anywhere, even if it's not opposite one of the walls. And nifritza b'yosim yaser aser, and if there's a hole anywhere in the fence which is more than 10 amos, then there's not considered to be a fence at all, and you can't plant. And hayusham kanim hadurkanim, if you have over there basically poles sticking in the ground, and basically you wrap vines around, it goes across. Even if it's more than 10 amos between the poles, it'll be mutter, because then we say, since you have those, as we saw this case earlier, you have the vines going there. Basically, the Tzoras Pesach basically closes up the walls. Now, that was the brisa. Now we're going to ask to the brisa. Remember on the on Rav Papa and Rav Huna Berei de Rav Yoshua. Now, Katani Mias Reisha. It says over there in the Reisha, it says Mishloisha va'ad arba. Right, from the case of 3 to 4, right? As long as you don't have the same amount in between. So you see what? If you have the same amount in between, according to this, it's usher. 50-50 is usher. It's like, tufted Rav Papa. It's a kasha Rav Papa, because Rav Papa says 50-50 is mutter. So I'm Rav Papa. No, my malo. What does it mean that the space in between it to be the same as it is? Nichnas v'yotze. It means the same as it is in order to to put it in, to take it out. And therefore, that is actually not 50-50. That's actually like 51% of here and 49% to be oimid. And Hachinami and Stab is also logical to say. Why? Because it says over there, if you have more opening than standing, af keneged ha'oimed usher. So if you have more openings, then you can't even go ahead and plant next to one of the walls, even though like you can't, the entire walls aren't good, but maybe next to one of the wall parts it will be okay. We see even that's usher. But if it was 50-50, mutter, then it would be mutter to go ahead and plant right next to the wall. So it could be that, right? So Rav Papa's inference is good, that maybe 50-50 would be good, connected the wall. So if that's the case, let me to Rav Huna Bar Yoshua. If that's the case, if you're a kashan of Rav Huna Bar Yoshua, who said that 50-50 is no good. So I'm going to say too, what are the seif? It says, if there was more standing, right, than opening, af kneged aparutz mutter. You're allowed to go ahead and plant next to, right, the opening areas, right? Af kneged aparutz mutter. But if it was 50-50, then it would be usher. So that's a proof for everyone the Yeshua. So therefore, you're right. So Seifa Kasha the Rav Papa and Reisha Kasha of Huna Bar Yoshua. So each one, according to Rav Papa, who holds is normally mutter, is a kasha on him, right? And according to Rav Huna Bar Yoshua, it's a kasha on him. In other words, it's not clear in terms of the brisa. So how will each one explain it? So Seifa Rav Papa lo kasha. So Rav Papa will have the ability to go ahead and explain the seifa, and it says no, it doesn't contradict his opinion to say that 50-50 is mutter. Why? So I did the Tana Reisha Paras Murubal Amud Tani Seifa Omid Murubal Paras. It's not that you can't in terms of the conscience of Papa was they want to infer. It said over there, if you have more standing, right, than opening, right, then it's more standing opening is good, but it's 50-50 sounds like a lesser. Don't infer from there, right? Because they just wanted to bring the same case, like we said earlier, right? If there's more opening, or if there's more gaps than wall, right, it's no good, but 50-50 is mutter. So therefore they use the same lashon in the seifa, but you can't make a diuk from it. And the same thing with Rav Huna will say, Reisha Rav Huna also like kasha. I do the boy misni seifa. Since the seifa he wanted to say I made merubal aparas. He wanted to say a case of where there's more wall than opening to teach us the halacha by being able to plant next to it. So therefore, it also said the case of, it wrote in the ratio, parts merubal I made. Therefore, it taught a case of if you have more opening than standing, you have more gaps in standing. But according to him, really, even if you have the same amount, it's also no good. So therefore, you can't go and infer from the Bryce. Now, so Bish Rav Papa. Now, this works out okay to Rav Papa as to Mishum Hachi La'irev Luhu V'Tani Luhu. Now remember, we had three categories, right? We had the categories of 0 up until 3 for the size of the walls that are standing, the parts of the fence that are standing. 0 up until 3. Category number 2 was 3 until a little bit less than 4, and the final category was 4 till 10. Now, according to Rav Papa, there's a difference between less than 3 and 3. Because according to Rav Papa, remember, it's mutter if you have exactly the same. So therefore, it makes sense according to Rav Papa why 3 was included in the second category, not the first category. So Bishlam Rav Papa Mishum Hachi La'irav Lahu V'Tani Lu. He didn't include it because in the first case you can have up to 3. You can't have the same amount. But once it's 3, you can't have equal cases of you can't have when it's equal. According to Rav Papa, so you couldn't because you can't have 3 tefachim next to gaps of 3 tefachim in the first case because that wouldn't be good there. So therefore, it had to include it in the second case, right? The second case where 50-50 is mutter, so that's why it included in the second case. But 50-50 wouldn't have been mutter if the boards were less than 3. So that's the reason. And you wouldn't be able to go ahead and plant, next to the fences. So that's why, according to Rav Papa, it's separated. El Rav Huna bar Yoshua. But according to Rav Huna bar Yoshua, who held that 50-50 is no good. So Ravina Lisninu. Why did he go include it? Kol shu pachas mishlosha ushlosha. Anything that's what's the first category? Anything that's less than 3 tefachim and 3 tefachim itself. Tzorich shelo yeh ben zel zeh shlosha. You can't have a gap of 3 in between because according to him, if you have a gap of 3 next to a wall of 3, it's no good according to Rav Huna bar Yoshua. So why was 3 included in exactly 3 tefachim of a wall included in the second category? It should have been listed in the first category. So the right answer is no. Because the different types of psula. Psul dereisha in the case of 0 to 3 or just under 3. The reason for that is not because it's not a question of being 50-50. It's a question of having basically a small animal is able to go ahead and walk through this fence, and therefore it's not considered a fence. And so the seifa on that, which we say is seifa of standing 3 fence and then a gap of 3 tefachim, shaloyei paratz kaimi. Therefore, in such a case, you don't have 50-50, which is paratz kaimi according to Rav Huna bar Yoshua. Now. Pachas mishleisha. Well, also another analysis, right? You said the gap has to be less than 3. So Mani, whose opinion is this? This is Rabbanan. He Damri Pachas mishleisha. Amri Lavud. As we saw earlier, that according to the Rabbanan, the halacha of Lavud is less than 3 tefachim. Then it's considered like it's closed up. So, however, shleisha lo'amrin lavad, but 3 or more is not considered to be lavud. So, ema seifa, but then look at the seifa. It says kol shu shleisha u'mishlosha araba. Anything that is 3, including 3, up until 4. Right, so then it's okay. Now, as that area is considered closed off, so you see up to 4 tefachim. So that's awesome. The Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. That lechayr goes according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Davar pachas me'arba lavud, who says that anything less than 4 is lavud. Di rabbanan, if it's rabbanan, mishloisha ve'arba, shloisha ve'arba chadu. Right, it shouldn't have had a separate category of 3 to 4 because 3 to 4 is the same as 3. Right. It's all one thing because it's we don't say lavud on something which is 3. We don't say lavud which is anything more than 3. So it'll all be the same. So Rabbi, the ratio Rabbanan, safe and not Rabbanan. No, since the ratio we're talking about Lavud, it's Rabbanan. So it's the same as Rabbanan. If that's the case, why are they talking about 4? Umod Rabbanan l'chol mishra connected. In other words, we have a special halach here. Right? The halach over here is talking about even though it's not considered to be a good wall, but maybe where the wall is standing, you can plant on both sides. Right? Umod Rabbanan l'chol mishra connected. And the Rabbanan will say. One second. And the Rabbanan will say that anywhere where in other words, where you have a wall of, which is the airspace less than 4, then we'll allow you to go ahead and plant by the walls. And therefore, if you have something which is considered to be 4, and if the wall is 4, then you can plant by the wall. If not, you can't do it. Yes. Someone had a question?
Just Lavu, just to confirm. So not anything up to 3, but only 3 it makes it a Lavu?
No, up to 3.
Oh,
now,
okay.
Up to 3 or up to 4.
Okay.
Up to 3 or up to 4. Yeah. So that's the machlokes. So basically, the difference is between 3 and 4, right? Exactly 3 and 2 up until 4. And Rav Amar, be the safer Rosh Hashanah by the fact that the safe is Rosh Hashanah Gamliel. Reish not be Rosh Hashanah Gamliel. Reish is also Rosh Hashanah Gamliel. The Chiyam Rav Shimon Gamliel Amrin Love, and when this Rav Shimon Gamliel says lovehood up to 4, that's Hani Mili Lamala. That's only talking about, let's say, when you have beams like on top and either connected or not. So you need 4 tefachim there. Aval Lamata, but when it comes to, let's say, off the ground, do we say that airspace is considered covered up, or 2 walls here? And to say they're connected as long as less than 4 tefachim, then he says, then you need 3, Lormin and Love, right? Then the issue is not so much love, if it is and a small animal can get through, and we don't want a small goat or a kid to get through, and therefore we would not say love it up until, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel will not say love it up to 4, he would only say up to 3 if it's on the ground. So Tashma, one final proof, one way or the other, regarding this machlekes as to 50-50. So Defanis, we saw this earlier, Defanis halu sharuban psachim v'chalanis mutter. We have a wall, which is mostly windows and doorways. Basically, it's all there's beams going across, and the windows are the ones basically you can't just walk through, and the walkways are the ones that's covered on top, but there's a space in the bottom that you can walk through. So he says, even though you have majority of openings and windows, it's mutter. As long as you don't have, right, that you have more standing than parts. So Sharuban, so that's what you need more. I understand, but we just talked about you have plenty of windows, like more windows than not. Ella Shariba it means that you have a lot of openings, a lot of entrances and windows, then it's mutter. But you don't have more. If you have more, it's no good. But if you have less than 50-50, then it's motu. As long as you have more oimed than a parutz. Ha kiparutz. But it sounds like if you have oimed kiparutz, if you have the same amount of wall standing as you have gaps, 50-50, then it's aser. So tiyufta, Rav Papa, tiyufta. It's a kasha in Rav Papa. He has no answer for this. It appears that 50-50 is aser. However, the hilchasa kavasi Rav Papa. The halach is like Rav Papa that 50-50 is mutter. So when I ask, tiyufta the hilchasa, you just asked the kasha, right? You said, it must be Rav Papa's wrong, and then you said the halach is like Rav Papa. How do you do that? So where's this in? Yeah. Mishum the daik masnisin kavase, because actually the simple diuk from our Mishnah is like Rav Papa. The Tanan, our Mishnah says, lo hiyu perutzas yiseras alabinya. It says over there, you should not have more openings than fence or than the wall. Sounds like kabina, but if you have as much openings, as much gaps as the built wall, i.e. 50-50, then it will be mutter. So the chara that goes like Rav Papa, that 50-50 is mutter. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah goes on. All right, it gets a little easier.
Naya Mishnah.
Naya Mishnah. Mekivin shleisha chavolen zeh l'malam mizeh, v'zeh l'malam mizeh, u'bevad shloyeh bein chavel l'chavero shleisha tefachim. So we talked about fences. Till now, basically, we're talking about vertical fences, right? You have vertical fences, like picket fences or whatever it is, right? Now we're talking about basically horizontal fences, right? We have, those are common fences. You need less fence. So now you want to have a wall that way. So, it's easier to make. You need less materials. Now, so we're saying as long as it has to be 10 tefachim tall, so it has to be 10 tefachim tall, and therefore, so how do you do that? So those of you have a picture, says you take basically a little rope or whatever you want to do. Those have the picture. and you put a space of 3 tefachim, and then you put a rope there, and you basically have 3 gaps. So 3 tefachim rope, 3 tefachim rope, 3 tefachim rope, right? So you have a total of 9 tefachim, or a little bit less than 9 tefachim, because it can't be 3. It has to be a little less than 3. And the ropes, if you add them together, have to be, right, more than a tefach, in order that the total is 10, right? Because you have basically, right, 2.9 plus 2.9 plus 2.9, right, would come out to 8.7, right? So therefore, as long as your ropes, your 3 ropes together are more than 1.3 tefachim, then you have the top of the fence to be at the 10 tefachim mark. So that was the case there. And the Gemara will also go into this case. So you're allowed to go ahead and use the 3 ropes, because between each rope, since the gap is less than 3 tefachim, we will say love it, right? And it's considered all those spaces are closed up, because anything less than 3 tefachim is considered like it's closed up, and therefore your fence is now basically fully enclosed around you. Right, then we said and the shear of the chavam of the rope is the width of it is al teva is more than tefach. In order that it should all be 10 tefachim. All right, so that was one way to make a fence. A second way to make a fence is makifin bikanim. You can go ahead and surround it with kanim, right? Basically poles. In other words, you put in poles and you put around, right? And basically you take poles and you put it into the ground, as long as, and you can even use thin poles, right? As long as the thin poles are within 3 tefachim of one another, right? You'd say love it over there, and therefore it's enclosed. And however, this was said even because this is a weak fence, because over here this fence is not 50-50 opening versus closing, because you have more opening. But since each opening is less than 3 tefachim, therefore it's halachically considered to be closed. Nevertheless, B'shayara divra Rabbi Yehuda. So it says Rabbi Yehuda, this is only a special halacha when it comes to a shayara, basically a traveling caravan, to go ahead and make it easier on the for the rabbin, for the people traveling. However, no, it's not just people on a caravan to exclude a yachid. Rather, it just says shayara because that's the most common type of cases where the people have these types of halachic fences. And any fence that does not have horizontal and vertical parts is not considered to be a wall. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's been a Rabbi Yehuda. And Chamim, echad mishnei dvarim, either you have one or the other, right, is okay. Either it's all vertical, it's all horizontal, you don't need both. That is, as long as it's, covering up, like as we discussed, then that is considered to be a fence. Fine. Zok the Gemara. So Omar, Rav Hamnuna, Omer Rav, Hare Amru, Aymein Murbal parts b'shasi, Havi Aymein. We discussed a case when you have the vertical parts, as we discussed in the previous Mishnah, you have, we talked about the vertical parts, you have more Aymeid kaparats, you have more standing parts than gaps. So you see that standing, right, is when we discuss vertical, right, where we say you need Aymeid and Meru'al parts. So what about horizontal, right? Do you need more horizontal parts to say, right, you have more Aymeid ala parts? Now, Amar Abaye, Tashma, come listen, let's look at our Mishnah. It says, Shir Chavalim, Ayvan Yesel Tefach. So we go back and we look. Our Mishnah says the width of the ropes, the 3 ropes combined, should be more than a tefach, right? Because as we said, right, if you add up the 3 gaps less than up until 3 tefachim, right, which is, if each one was 2.9, right, then so you need your ropes to add up to basically 1.3 to basically be more than a tefach in order to fill up even the spaces for the gaps. Now, shayu hakol asara tefachim. So in order for it all to be 10 tefachim. Now, one important thing to say is when we talk about gaps and to fill up, you have more enclosed space than gaps. It doesn't just mean physical matter enclosed. It means even halachically enclosed. So when you say lavud, that is like it's enclosed. So if I have, right, 2 ropes here, and the space in between is 2 tefachim, let's say I have a board of 1 tefach and a board of 1 tefach here, and 2 tefachim in between, All right, that is 4 tefachim enclosed. It's not one here, and 2 tefachim, and it's even. No. Once you say lavud makes it enclosed, even though it's not physically enclosed. It's halachically enclosed. So now, in this case over here, each space is less than 3 tefachim. You have a full-blown 10 tefach wall, 100% enclosed. There's no openings. Now, the Isa, if you would say that we're worried about parts only when it comes to horizontal, what about this? Why do you need the ropes to add up more than tefach? Let's go like this. On the bottom, you have less than 3 and a rope, right? Then also another rope, a thin rope with less than 3, and then you use, right, a gap of 4. In other words, a gap of 3, and 4, right? Add those together is 10. Right, and therefore the ropes don't even really need to be much, right? It just has to be make sure that it's not a gap not more than 4, a gap not more than 3, right? In those cases. So the Gemara says, now, Tisbra, can you say such a thing? Now, where would your gap of 4 tefachim go? Now, hi, pachas me'arba heiki mukimla. If you put it on the bottom, then you'd have a scenario of where you have 4, the wall is basically hanging 4 tefachim off the ground, and that is no good, as we saw earlier, because that is enough space for an animal to walk underneath. And if an animal can walk underneath your wall, it's not a wall. So you can't, but if it's less than 3, then an animal can't get through. So therefore, the 4 tefachim gap can't be on the bottom. Okay, so say like this: the bottom is 3, the next one is 3, the top gap is 4. If you say that, well, that's a problem, because since you have airspace above the top rope, right? And since the top rope is in between 2 airspaces, which are more than 3 tefachim, it's mavatal that rope to say the rope is not there. Why? How do you have that? Because if you say the top is the gap of 4 tefachim, and then above the rope, obviously you have the sky, right? So then, what do you see over there? Then it's a problem, right? You can't go ahead and we mevatel that rope, right? So okay, fine. So say the 4 tefach gap is going to be the one in the middle, right? Those of you who have the art scroll, right? The picture is by number 25, right? If you say that this is the case, right, over here, right? If we say that, then then in other words, so therefore you have basically the one enclosed on top is 3, because we said love is like it's enclosed. You have 3 on top and 3 on the bottom, and you have a space of 4 in between. Okay. Now this is the case, even though 6 is more than 4, because 3 plus 3 is more than 4, but the 4 is more than each one individually. And we said earlier that does not work, right? So the only way you have more wall than gap is by combining both sides. So Shmami, no, you tell me that you want to teach that halacha here. That's not true, right? You need the fact that the space in between cannot just be basically both the 2 sides combined are more than the open space. It doesn't work. Actually, Ravuno, this is what he meant to ask. Kagon, the icy machzelas, the havi shiva mashu. Let's say you have a case of you have a reed mat, right, which is basically 7 and change, right? It's 7 tefachim and a little more. And you carve out from there 3 tefachim. The shabak ba arbo mashu, and therefore you have 4 tefachim on the top and 1 on the bottom. So those of you who have the picture in the art scroll right next to number 27, right? So here is this picture. You have the top, which is the 4 tefachim mat, and then you have 3 tefachim here and less than 3 tefachim here, and you have a little piece of mat in between that, right? So the question is now here clearly you have more open space or not, right? So you say, so the kima pachas mishleisha. Now, and then you have on the bottom, you put it within 3 tefachim of the ground. So Ravashi Omar mechitza talia. So that was the question. So the question was, do we say in this case you need more openings than closings or not? So in Ravashi Amar mechitza talia, boy, who you're asking about a case of a mechitza that's hanging on the ground, that's off the ground a little less than 3 tefachim. So k'daboy minei Rav Tavla mirab mechitza talia ma'u shitati b'chorava. Didn't we ask another case whether a hanging wall be sufficient in the case of ruins, and we said it's no good there. Number eight, it's only mutter in a case of water, right? We're only making when it comes to drawing water. Then we have mechitzas that don't come in contact with the ground. So kalhu shekilu chamim b'mayim. It's only a kula they have by water, but when it comes to other cases, therefore it should not work in this case. But 2 dots. And then the case number 2 was you put poles around, and the poles, thin poles, but they're within 3 tefachim one another. That would be okay. And then over there, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we're only talking about a case of a shayara, but not a normal case of a person and his home, right? Only when it comes to people traveling. So shayara in b'yachilo is it only for a shayara, not a yachid. So I bought tiny learned rice. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kol mechitzas Shabbos lo yitila yachid yisir mi beis hasayim. All mechitzas on Shabbos they permitted for a yachid, right? They did not permit for a yachid more than basis sign, an area that can grow, right? That you need to go ahead and sow if you're going to go ahead and plant to sow, which is a basis sign, which is 5,000 square amos. So we see over here that's different. So it's you said yachid, it doesn't work at all, and here it seems to say up to 2,000. So Kadama Rav Nachman v'Teimer Rav Bibi Barabai. Like no, we said no. We'll answer that which Rav Nachman says, and some say it was Rav Bibi Barabai. No, is that which we say you can go ahead and it could be used for a shayara? Is let's say you have a caravan and they need a large space, more than 5,000 amos, more than basis asayim, then they're permitted to do so. But if it was for a yachid, he wouldn't be able to. So hachanami, so over here, that which we said in the Mishnah, right? That means if the space is more than basis asayim, you will not be able to use a yachid only up to that basis asayim. But for a shayara, they would be able to even use more space than that. So heichi tamad Rav Nachman v'Teimer Rav Bibi Rabai. And where did he say this? Rav Nachman and some say it was Rav Bibi Rabai. Ahad tanan. On this Mishnah it says kol mechitza sheina shel shasi v'eravein mechitza div Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. Any mechitza that is not vertical and horizontal is not considered mechitza. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. Umiyam Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. Hachid Rabbi Yosef, the Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda say this. V'altani learn a brayse echad yachid echad shayara l'chavalim. Whether it's an individual, right, or a shayara caravan, they are allowed to go ahead and use ropes, right? If that's the case, what is the difference between an individual and a shayara in a caravan? So yachid nice in law basis aside. When it comes to a yachid, we give him up until a basis aside. However, shnayim nice in law basis aside. If it's 2 people, we also allow them a basis aside. However, shleisha, it's more at least 3 people. Then nasa shayara, 3 people traveling, and they have to stop for Shabbos and make these temporary walls, right? That is considered to be a caravan. But nice lahan base sheish div Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, right? Give him at least 6, not 2, but 6, right? Basically 3 times the size of 6 base saw. And that's in the Chamim say no echad yachid v'echad shayara nice and called tzarchan. Chamim say no. Whether it's a yachid or a shayara, we give them as much as they need. As long as the basis assignment is not empty. In other words, they can use as much, even more than 2,000, or basis assignment, right? As much as it needs, as long as in using these walls, as long as they have no area which is panoi, which is open, and we'll soon see what that is. Tomorrow's Gemara, and just get to the 2 dots. And Rav Nachman v'Teimer Rav Bibi Barabai, so over there, that which he said, they can use as much as they need, only if they need for their tzarech. In other words, for their tzarech up until basis sayim, but more than that, they will not be able to go ahead and use it. But when it comes to shayara, if they need more, then they could even use more than a basis assign. All right, we'll stop here at the 2 dots. All right, there's difficult gemaras here. Shkoyach, everybody. Have a good day.